I'm Sarah Ellsworth Hoffman. Welcome to this week's installment of a new program called The Goldie Show. Our host, Goldie, firmly believes that everyday people are worth more than gold. The main focus of The Goldie Show is to talk with people who are making a difference in a positive way here in our community and around the world. In today's episode of The Goldie Show, we are speaking with Fort Wayne's Mayor Tom Henry. Mayor Tom Henry is the father of 2 children with his wife, Cindy. Along with being mayor, he is also the CEO of the Gallant Group. He ran for office in 2007 and is now serving his second term. Prior to becoming mayor, he served as a member of the Fort Wayne City Council for 20 years. He will tell us about how much work it took to get to where he is today and how much work he is doing now to help the community and his ideas for the future. Tune in now to hear about it.
Hi, welcome to Goldie Show. I have Mayor Henry with me. It's an honor to have you, sir, with me.
Well, thank you so much.
I have a couple questions and hopefully we'll get the best of the best.
Okay.
First to start off with, Mr. Mayor, is where are you originally from?
Actually, I was born in Indianapolis. My father was in graduate school, but our family's from Fort Wayne. We've been here quite a long time, over 100 years. So after my father finished school, we came back to Fort Wayne.
So you finished your school in Fort Wayne or Indianapolis?
He actually finished his school in Indianapolis.
And you?
And both my bachelor's and master's are from Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne. Now, when you were in school and you were growing up and going to college, in that process, did you ever have the idea of, oh, I'm going to run for a mayor or some kind of a government position?
No, not really. I started off in pre-law.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to be a lawyer, but then changed my mind actually several times, as a lot of students do, and ended up with my bachelor's degree in psychology.
Oh, wow.
And then I went and received my master's in business administration.
Hey.
But originally I had no intent on being a politician.
So you had no clue what you were going to do?
Not really. When I graduated from graduate school, I received a job at Parkview Health.
Oh, really?
And worked with them for a while. And while I was working with them, I decided to run for city council because I was upset with the representation that my part of the city was getting from the city councilman in that area. And I decided, somewhat on a whim, I guess, although my father had been involved in politics behind the scenes.
Okay.
He had worked for several politicians, helping them get elected.
Oh, wow.
And so I was a little bit familiar with the process, but never had any desire to run for an office until I became upset with my legislator and decided to run against him, and I won.
Now, in the meantime, were you married or you got married or?
I was married in 1975, and I didn't get my first elected office till 81, or 82. So we were married for a few years.
Wonderful. Now, when you first decided you wanted to run for the mayor, did you take this idea to your wife and your family and says, hey, I'm going to run for mayor? And what was her reaction?
Actually, my wife came to me.
Oh, wow.
I had served 20 years on the city council.
Okay.
And I was running for my 6th term, and I was beaten. Normally, incumbents don't get beat, but we did some redistricting, and unfortunately, I had too many people opposed to me, and at that time, so I lost by, I think it was 100 votes. And that was fine. I had served 20 years, and I was content with that. But we had a mayor's position open.
Oh, wow.
The mayor at that time was Democrat, and he had served 2 terms, had decided not to run for a 3rd term, and the Democrats didn't have a candidate to run, so they began to ask me to run, and including my wife, because our children were grown and gone, and my wife owned her own business, so she wasn't home a lot anyway.
Okay.
So she thought that I would be a good mayor, and apparently several other people did. So I was a little hesitant, a little resistant to run, because I had done 20 years in the legislative branch, and I wasn't sure I wanted to be involved in the executive branch. But ultimately, I did tell them I would run, and I won.
But in the meantime, while you were running or planning, to run, you had to. Did you have any kind of, obstacles or,
Well, sure. First of all, this city is over 60% Republican. So I knew going in that it was going to be difficult to try to change the minds of a lot of people who were of an opposite party. So that was number one. Number two, it cost, unfortunately, a tremendous amount of money to run for office. To run for the position of mayor in Fort Wayne, it cost just right around $1 million.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot of money.
Yes.
So you have to spend a lot of your time fundraising.
Oh, definitely.
And that's a lot of fundraising. It's not just calling people on the phone. You have to go out and have events and so on. So that takes a lot of work, and you have to hire staff to do that.
Oh, yes.
When you have a job, you can't do that all day, every day. So you have to hire people, and you have to work their schedule as well as your work schedule, as well as your social schedule. So there's a lot of time. Yeah, exactly right. So there's a lot of time involved, a lot of money involved, and you have to constantly try to figure out what the citizens want and try to put together a plan, a package that will be appealing to them. So it's a lot of work.
Now, in your first term that you ran as a mayor, what was your accomplishment, and do you think you accomplished what you wanted in that first term?
Yeah, during my first term, I think we accomplished quite a bit. Everything from finishing up Parkview Field and getting the hotel built and getting the finishing touches on the Harrison. And that was a huge project, and it took quite a bit of time. But we also negotiated the Indiana-Michigan power contract with the city, another lease, which now has resulted in the Legacy Fund, which is over $50 million now, and we'll be getting in an additional $20-some million over the next 15 years. So that's a really a nice fund of money because it's not tax money. So we have a lot of flexibility with it, and that really makes it good for the city. A lot of cities struggle with access to capital, and we're blessed to have that sum of money that we can work with. So those two were probably my biggest accomplishments in the first 4 years that I was mayor.
Now, when your term was coming up, what motivated you or inspired you to run for the second term?
Well, I had started a lot of different projects and programs and initiatives during my first 4 years, and I wanted to be able to see those to completion. And I think we have. We're continuously doing things and working a lot on downtown, new office buildings and new housing developments. We've done a lot with our streets and our roads downtown, a lot with our trail system to make our entire city as pedestrian friendly and as bicycle friendly as possible. So we're doing a lot in those areas, but also we do a lot with our neighborhoods. This past year, we spent a record amount of money on new streets in our neighborhoods and sidewalks and curbs and new street lighting. So we're trying to really get our arms around what the needs and the wants and the desires of our citizens are, and we're trying to put together the initiatives and the packages to get that done. And that's the reason I ran for a second term, and we were able to accomplish a lot of it.
It was challenging, but right?
It was.
Now, in all these years, now you're a mayor again over here this time, and I know you bought some projects downtown, but I know there was also a project of bringing casino and other stuff.
Right.
What really stopped you from bringing that?
During my first term, we were approached by several different members of the gaming industry to take a look at Northeast Indiana. If you look at our state, there's gaming all over the state. In Northwest Indiana, there's several casinos up there in Michigan City and in Gary. And then you go to Central Indiana, and there's one in Shelbyville and one in Anderson. And you go down to Southwest Indiana, you've got one in Evansville, and Southeast, you've got a couple. But there's none in Northeast Indiana. So the gaming industry got hold of me right after I was elected and asked me if I'd be interested in talking to them about Northeast Indiana. And they were talking to us about great sums of money coming into our community, millions of dollars that they would share with us, and also thousands of jobs. So they put together a pretty attractive package. But I knew right away it couldn't be just my decision. So I decided to go to the state legislature and ask if we could have a referendum in Fort Wayne, if they could put it on the ballot at our next upcoming election, and ask the citizens of Fort Wayne, would they be interested in having gaming as part of our community? And if the citizens said yes, then we would pursue it. If they said no, then we wouldn't. But the state legislature at that time didn't feel that even that was appropriate. So they turned my request down. The citizens of Northeast Indiana never really had a chance to vote on it. And that's been the way it's been with the state legislature since then.
Are you planning to pursue it again? I mean, they always say, first they say no, second, died the third time.
I think what I want to do is wait for them to come to me.
Okay.
If the state feels that gambling is an intricate part of our funding source for the state budget, and I think it is, and they realize that a lot of money is now going to Ohio, which wasn't there before. Indiana's losing over $200 million a year to Ohio because they've opened up their own casinos. I don't know how the state of Indiana is going to recoup that. And eventually they may want to expand gambling. I don't know. That's their decision. And if they decide to do that and want to come to Northeast Indiana, to Fort Wayne, Allen County, I'll ask them again for a referendum. And if they allow it, then we'll see what the citizens want.
In case you just tuned in, I'm Sarah Ellsworth Hoffman, and you're watching the 4th episode of a brand new program here called The Goldie Show. The Goldie Show is a half-hour treat with our host, Goldie, interviewing folks from different walks of life who are making a positive difference in our community. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and also on our website, goldieshow.com. Now let's go back to Goldie and her interview with Mayor Tom Henry of Fort Wayne, where he shares his thoughts on cleaning up crime, plans for the future, and offers tips to anyone who is interested in becoming more involved in the community.
I know you celebrate Iftar with the Muslims and all, and I had a request also from other societies and other Hindus and Gujaratis.
Sure.
And recently there was a celebration by the Gujarati which is called the Navratri,
right.
The celebration of dance, 9 days. And they said they would one day would love to see you come and see their dance.
I would love to.
Would you like to get an invitation?
Yeah, I think our citizens need to come to the realization that I want a very inclusive community. Mm-hmm. I think it's very important to exercise diversity in a community. And unfortunately, there are some cities out there who don't practice that as well as they should. But myself, I like to have a number of different faiths and a number of different cultures in our community because we can learn from one another.
Oh, yes.
A lot of fear of different groups comes about because of a lack of education. And I think the more we learn about one another and the more we can experience each other's cultures and so on, the more I think we realize that, when it comes to the end of the day, we're all very much alike.
Mr. Mayor, I know we have a lot of immigrants coming into Fort Wayne, from Burmese to Nepal to Bosnia, etc.
Right.
When they come here, of course, they're new.
Correct.
How our society and your office handles that?
When they first started coming in mass, just shortly after I became mayor, it was recognized that Fort Wayne was a welcoming community. So we began to get more and more Burmese in. We had already been receiving a lot of Bosnians. The Congolese started coming in. The Vietnamese were continuing to come in. The Cambodians. So it began to get more and more difficult to welcome them because we didn't have all of the resources. Many of them did not speak our language. They didn't know about our culture. They didn't know about our educational base. They were told to try to get a job. They didn't know about our transportation system or our currency. So it was very, very difficult. Many of them came from refugee camps, and they had never been exposed to anything like this. So it was really a challenge for them and a challenge for our own city. So one of the things that we did early on was to set up our own base of integrating people into our community, kind of like our own version of Ellis Island. So everybody who came in would go to the center, and we had stations set up within the center so they could go to one and figure out where they needed to live, and go to another one and they could get their health problems taken care of, and one after another, so that we could assimilate them into Fort Wayne with as few problems as possible. We also realized very on that the biggest obstacle was language.
Language, I was going to ask.
If you don't speak the language, it's very, very difficult to navigate around a community. So we immediately began to put together a lot of social service agencies and school systems and churches and the like to take our new citizens into our community and teach them our language. The youth picked it up very quickly.
Yes.
We older ones was a little more difficult, but they began to again assimilate rather quickly, and they know that Fort Wayne has the welcome mat out, and we do have a program now in place to help them get into our community in a successful fashion.
We as a society do have a big arm. We do embrace a lot of people.
We try.
Is there any special dear near project to your heart that you want to accomplish?
Right now, it's probably our riverfront study that's taking place. That's an area that we've never really addressed as the community. For years, our rivers were a detriment to our community. They would flood, they would damage property, they would displace people. It was really not an asset to our community. Well, now we're in a position where we can turn that around, and we do have some money set aside. So we did hire a consulting firm. Their study should be done by the end of the year, and based upon their study, the results of their study, and a lot of the polling that we've done in our community, I think we're going to be able to put together a pretty successful, long-reaching plan for utilizing our rivers in the best possible way we can.
This might be a little difficult question, or it might be a difficult question to ask and maybe to answer. You know about the different violence that is going on,
Yes.
racial profiling, this and that. How is your office or Fort Wayne adjusting or would adjust to such things?
Actually, we've already incorporated just this past year. Last year we had a very tough year with the criminal element in our community. We had far too many homicides. We had far too many burglaries and assaults and so on. And we had to get our head around that. So one of the first things we did this year was to put together a task force, a criminal task force with about a dozen officers, male and female, who really began to get into the trenches of violent crime in our community. What caused it, who was involved in it, how could we reduce it, and so on. And that task force has been working day and night this whole year. We also put into place a new fire chief, a new police chief,
Okay.
because we took the old police chief and made him the director of public safety.
Right.
So we have one person now at the top of both police and fire, and that's made a significant difference. And right now, this month, our entire crime for Fort Wayne, based upon last year, we're down about 12 to 15%. And our homicide rate is down 75%.
That is excellent, but going back to the question is, sometimes with all this, it's so difficult for your office and the police how to react, when to react, because of so much, they have to be so careful. They're walking a thin line.
The municipalities, government in general, is usually, they do pretty good in a reactionary mode. Trying to put together a progressive mode is a lot more difficult because crime is a moving target, and it's hard to really put your finger on what exactly is the cause of a particular type of crime. Now, we are right now incorporating some brand new programs in our city. Some of them have come down from the federal government. Everything from My Brother's Keeper, where we're trying to work with young black men and boys, trying to give them a hand up rather than a hand out,
Yes.
help educate them, help teach them some job skills and so on. We have another African American initiative going on at the same time. We work regularly with our faith-based community.
Wonderful.
We are a city of churches,
Yes.
and we try to utilize that to make our city a little bit better place to live. So we try different initiatives. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But the worst thing we could do is to do nothing.
I agree
So we're
with you.
constantly trying to
Yeah, I won't
upgrade
have
our
more.
community.
Any regrets?
I think the one thing I regret the most is access to capital. We never have enough money.
Enough.
We have a lot of people that come into our offices. I have a lot of people that meet with me in my office who have some wonderful programs, some wonderful initiatives, some wonderful projects that they want to incorporate in our community. And unfortunately, we do have to say no far more often than I'd like to. But we only have so much money.
So how can society or again government all come together to help you get those funds to help others with the idea?
Well, I think at a city level, we're probably doing about the best job we can do. What we need now to do is to appeal to the state and federal government and have them change some of their priorities. Far too often, the state government and the federal government fund projects and programs that, quite frankly, I don't think will have a true sustainable effect on our community. Or they cut programs that really need to be maintained. And why they do that, I don't know. They have their own agenda, and it's unfortunate because some of these programs are very, very good. So all we can do as citizens is continue to appeal to our elected officials and let them know that certain programs need to stay, or we need to get new sources of revenue to support those programs and projects that ultimately will help Fort Wayne be that all it can be.
Now, besides running for the mayor or planning to run for a mayor long term down the road, do you ever think about running for other positions?
Oh, no. Right now, I'm very happy being mayor.
But down the road, you know?
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
I enjoy this job, and if I decide to run for a third term and am blessed to be reelected, I'll put most of my energy into that.
That's fantastic. Now, as a mayor and all the audience that are watching out, young, old, different race, different people, what is your message if they want to run for the mayor? What would you tell them to think and what to do and how to run for a mayor?
Well, first of all, I think everybody should give back to the community in one way or another. I chose politics, and that's not necessarily the right field for a lot of people. They may want to give back through their faith-based community. They might want to give back through social service agencies. They might want to give back through youth sports. There's a number of different avenues that are available for our citizens to give back to our city, and they should. Our city has been very, very good to almost all of us, and I think we have an obligation, an ethical, moral obligation to give back to our community. But for those who are interested in politics, it's a wonderful field. Unfortunately, there's a small percentage that sometimes gives us criticism where we really don't deserve it. But most politicians, most statesmen are very, very good people, and they want what's best for their community. If a young person wants to get involved, I would say get hold of the respective political groups, whether they're Democrat or Republican or independent. Find a group that kind of goes along with your own beliefs and get involved and look behind the scenes and maybe work for precincts and be a precinct worker and get a feel for that particular group and see if that's an area you want to be involved in and work your way up.
Now, as a mayor, do you guys, like a lot of mayors, get together and share ideas or plans or
Right. On a monthly basis, we do. We do a lot by email.
Okay.
If a particular mayor has a problem that he or she comes up with, it's not unusual for them to send that out to all the other mayors to see if any of us have experienced that problem and what type of solution we came up with. So that goes on constantly. But we also meet on a monthly basis. We have the Mayor's Roundtable. All the mayors of Northeast Indiana get together and we discuss pending legislation. We discuss problems or successes that we've had, and we share all that. And then also on a bi-monthly basis, all of the mayors of the entire state get together.
Wonderful.
Through our association, and we meet and talk about, again, various pieces of legislation that are going to affect the entire state. So we try to give ourselves as many opportunities as possible to meet with one another.
Do you have any plans traveling internationally with all these things going on now? You planning to go international or get some ideas? Or
Well, I've had the pleasure of going to all of our sister cities. We have 4 sister cities.
Wonderful.
We have one in Germany, we have one in Poland, we have one in Japan, and we have one in China. And I have had the chance, been blessed with the ability to go to all of those cities on at least one occasion, in some cases a couple. And we are looking to expand our sister city program over the next couple of years. It takes a lot of preparatory work in order to put a sister city program together. It's very expensive, and we have to kind of date each other for a while before we get married. So it takes a lot of time. We have to send delegations back and forth and check with our governments and so on. But we plan on bringing in at least one or two more. A lot of it depends on whether or not I run and get reelected.
You will.
If I don't, then obviously the new mayor, whoever that person is, will have to make their own decision as to whether or not they wish to expand it. But I have been invited to Morocco. They were here not too long ago visiting Ivy Tech, and they've invited me to go to Morocco.
And now, just to touch your family a bit, I know it. I'm going to ask you this question.
Sure.
Your children, you mentioned, have they ever thought about running in?
No, but neither one of them are excited about running for office. I think they saw the sacrifice that I had to make, even when I was on city council. They were growing up, and I missed a lot of their sporting events, and I missed some of their civic events because I was working. And I think when they saw that and the sacrifice that a person has to make with their family plans, I think they both decided that's not for either one of them. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I appreciate all your time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Gold is a real pleasure.
Thank you. Remember, everyday people are worth more than gold. This is Goldie Show. Thank you for watching.
Thanks to Mayor Tom Henry for being today's guest on The Goldie Show. Be sure to tune in next week when Goldie will interview John Gillespie, who is a producer, arranger, composer, and recording engineer behind Dream Rodeo. John has been a professional recording engineer since the early 1990s. Mr. Gillespie will tell us how he worked his way up to where he now owns an amazing studio that has recorded a lot of national artists. The Goldie Show, where we believe that everyday people are worth more than gold. I'm Sarah Ellsworth Hoffman. See you soon.